If you are someone who struggles to get things done and complete their tasks, and you've been thinking that you are lazy, unproductive, and just lacking self-discipline, today's video is going to be a game changer for you to understand what may be the underlying cause for your lack of productivity and exactly what you need to do that you wouldn't expect that you need to do in order to fix it. Hello, my charmed ones, and welcome back to my channel for another video. If this is your first time with me, I'd like to say welcome. My name is Alexis, but I'm also known as MissTrenchcoat all across the internet, and I help busy, overwhelmed, and ambitious women plan for a balanced and successful life. And we are going to be talking about a topic today that I think many of us struggle with, and I think that actually really all of us struggle with this on some level. Some of us just struggle with it more than others. So if that resonated with you, what I said in the intro about feeling lazy, unproductive, like why can't I just get things done? Why can't I ever complete my work? Today's video is really going to help open your eyes to what is going on inside of you so that you can correct it. So let me go ahead and switch on over. I do actually have a little slideshow in order to present this information. There you go. I just love to do slides because I know it helps people to follow along. It makes it easier to take notes if you can screenshot what I'm talking about on the screen. And yeah, so let's just jump in. It also keeps me from being long-winded because you guys know that I have a problem with that. Okay, so in this video today, what are we talking about? We are talking about productivity and your nervous system. That's right. Your productivity issues are most likely stemming from a nervous system issue, and we're going to get into the science of this right now. So do you often feel lazy, unproductive, and lacking self-discipline when you don't stick to your daily plan or your to-do list? This is actually a nervous system reaction, not a reflection of your capabilities. So what I want you to understand, and I want you to kind of think of this is not an affirmation, but this is a mindset shift. It is not that you are lazy. It is that your to-do list is triggering you, okay? So when it comes to what's going on inside of you that's causing these issues, it all stems from the part of our nervous system called the sympathetic nervous system. So you may know your sympathetic nervous system as your fight or flight system, right? It's part of our body that gets activated, like if we were to see a predator in nature and makes us flee, or if there is some fight or some threat in front of us, we may fight, right, in order to break free. And when we think about our sympathetic nervous system, we usually just think about it in those two ways, right? Fight or flight, but there's actually 5 reactions that your nervous system expresses when it is triggered, not just 2. And yes, these apply to being triggered by a long, unfocused to-do list, okay? I know this may seem unbelievable, right? But the fact is that we no longer, for the most of us, right? Most of us out there in the world, or anyone who's watching this video, I will say, we most likely do not live with real, true threats to our existence, right? On a daily basis. Now, some people do, right? Some people live in areas of the world that are not as fortunate as like where I live, right? In the US, and if you live in like first world countries, that we would say, right? You are going to be less affected, right, by sort of real existential things like war and famine and actual like threats to your safety. So we've basically evolved over these generations being like pretty safe, right, living in society. And so our problems now are not that we have to like flee lions, right? Our problems now are that we have so much work we have to do. We've got the pressure of a boss. We've got a whole bunch of family and people in our lives that we are accountable to, a lot of different priorities and a lot of pressure. And that is now the new existential threat to us that can trigger our sympathetic nervous system. So going back to what I was saying here, that there are actually 5 reactions, not just 2, that our nervous system expresses when it is triggered. That is fight, flight, freeze, faint, fawn. Isn't that so nice? They all start with F's. I love an alliteration, right? Don't you? So there are actually 5 ways that you actually express a trigger from your sympathetic nervous system, okay? So here are the 5 ways that a triggered nervous system kills your productivity, okay? Number 1 is with the fight response, okay? So if you are triggered by your to-do list, you may fight against your tasks through perfectionism. Are you someone who thinks they are a perfectionist, right? Or, resonates with that? So usually this takes the form of excessively preparing to do tasks or needing circumstances to be perfect before you will take action. Think about it. If you have something on your to-do list, you know you're supposed to do it, but you are triggered, right? It's scary to you. You don't feel comfortable with the work, right? These things normally happen because either the amount of things that we have to do on our task list are just so overwhelming, or specific things on our task list are new to us, or we feel like might be more challenging for us. And so we get that fear response, and it may trigger this reaction in you because it's triggered our nervous system, right? So instead of like actually fighting, you can't fight a task list, right? But what you can do is say, well, I'll do the thing, but I'm not going to make it easy for you, right? I want everything to be perfect. I have to make sure everything is aligned. If this work isn't perfect, I'm not going to complete it, right? These are ways that we actually fight ourselves and fight tasks that we're doing when we are triggered, right? By our task list. This is the way our nervous system may respond, okay? So that's the first reaction you may have. The second reaction may be the flight response. So if you're triggered by your to-do list, you may take flight, literally avoiding your to-do list through procrastination and doing anything else because your nervous system can't handle the pressure right now, right? So again, it doesn't really matter what the situation is. It is always good to know, is it just that your task list is just overwhelming, too many things on it, right? We'll talk about that later. Or is this that there is an individual item or a few items on there that just feel really overwhelming to you, so you're going to avoid doing any work? How often do you sit down, look at your plan for the day, or you make a to-do list, and then you just leave it? You leave it and you go do something else, right? A lot of times we hear people actually out there now talking about something that they call productive procrastination, which is, and I do this all the time too. So this is not just you. And like I said, we will all have varying levels of these responses depending on what's our to-do list. So I know for me, I do this productive procrastination, right? Where instead of doing the thing on my task that I'm avoiding doing, I will go do the laundry. I'll go do the dishes. I will clean the entire house, right? I will scrub the toilets before I will do this thing on my to-do list, right? Because I'm trying to procrastinate. This is the flight response. This is you running from the lion, fleeing from the lion, right? This is you fleeing from your to-do list, right? And it's one of the ways that this trigger may come up for you. Number 3 is the freeze response, okay? So if you're triggered by your to-do list, you may freeze, right? This looks like pausing all action and overthinking, ruminating on the decision of whether or not you will act. How often do you sit down and you make a to-do list and maybe you even choose something to do on the list, and then you sit there for a while and think about it. And you think about it and you're like, should I do this? Should I do this? And you think and you think and you think. And then all of a sudden, 15 or 20 minutes have gone by and you've just been ruminating and thinking about doing something instead of actually just doing it, right? This is another common response that's coming from your nervous system, okay? Number 4 is the faint response. So if you are triggered by your to-do list, you may faint, right? Needing to actually sit or lie down because you suddenly feel symptoms of physical overwhelm, right? So when you get in this response, right, you actually will be looking at your to-do list, you have a lot to do, and then you feel that sense of overwhelm and you're like, I got to take a minute. I got to sit down. I've got to like veg out on the couch. I need to like zone out for a little bit because I can't handle this right now, right? That is a physical overwhelm that's coming, and the faint response that is triggered. You don't actually have to faint, like fall over. The faintness is that your nervous system is actually shutting down, right? And telling you, let's rest right now. Like, let's not take any action, right? So this is going to make you disinterested in doing any work. So if you see your to-do list and then you're like, oh, I got to go sit down somewhere else, and you just lose interest in the thing, right? That is part of the faint response, right? That you will just feel like you don't want to do any work and that you don't feel capable of doing anything, right? Like imagine like waking up one day and being sick and just knowing I can't do any work today. It's like that. Your body is kind of mimicking that response, even though maybe you don't have the sniffles or a fever, right? So that is the faint response, right? You're going to be unable to take action until that feeling passes. And then number 5 is the fawn response. This is when you are triggered by your to-do list and you fawn, meaning that you may start taking some action on it, right? But then you allow yourself to get easily distracted away from your task. And it's almost like a diversion tactic that we do, and we leave our tasks incomplete. So fawn is like when we're like, okay, I'll just give in, right? I'll just give in and I'll just do it, right? But we get started like really half-heartedly. And as soon as there's an excuse to get out of there, we leave, right? As soon as a distraction pops up, as soon as someone asks you for something else, oh, my phone rang. Oh, I just heard a ding. Oh, I have to check my social media, right? You walk away from it because you didn't actually want to do it. You were just kind of like appeasing yourself to get started. But then you didn't want to be there, so you made sure that you got distracted away from it. Okay, so that is the fifth way that you may see your nervous system react. And I do want to say that you could experience one or all five of these, and that would be completely normal, right? Because we do actually express all of these reactions in different scenarios. Okay, so if you're like, Alexis, all five of these were me, I get it, I understand, right? Or maybe you notice that there's only 2 or 3 responses in there that you fight with. Identify which ones you think are your problem. I think that's going to be very important. And I want you to remember that you are only as productive as your nervous system will allow, right? So if you are working off of a crazy to-do list and you have a huge schedule and you're feeling overwhelmed, of course, you're not going to want to take action. You can only do as much as you are physically capable in your body of holding time and space and energy for. And when your nervous system is triggered, it means you are not going to be able to be productive. So if any of these sound like you, we're going to talk now about what you need to do. And I want you to let me know in the comments which of those reactions you struggle with. Again, it could be one, it could be all five. Let me know. I think it's important to understand. And I think it's also important for us to understand additionally which tasks we find this happens with. Is it just that our task list is overwhelming, or are there specific tasks that when they come up, we know that we have a nervous system reaction? So I want you to start taking note of that as well, okay? But let me know in the comments if this is resonating with you, which of these situations you feel like you get into the most. Okay, so here is the action plan. I think I have 3 steps in this action plan for what we're going to do to get out of this nervous system response. Number 1 is you need to understand that you are dealing with an unconscious response that your body is having to a perceived threat. This is not you. This is the way that you are made. That's the way that all humans are made, that when there's a perceived threat, sympathetic nervous system pops in and it's trying to protect us in one way or another. Yes, the threat is a disorganized to-do list. It's your planner. It's this list of unreasonable expectations on your time and energy, right? And that seems ridiculous, right? But you really have to understand that in this moment, right, when I know you want to judge yourself and say that you're lazy or unproductive or lacking self-discipline, you have to control your self-talk. You cannot blame yourself for what is going on inside of your physiology inside of you, right? You cannot talk down to yourself because of this. I swear that's only going to make the situation worse. So when those things happen, when you are triggered, there's nothing you can do about it, right? You shouldn't feel bad about it, right? Let it happen, right? I'm going to tell you now how we get out of it, but let it happen and do not talk down to yourself. Do not berate yourself. Keep your self-talk at least neutral or positive, because that will only add fire and keep you in the response longer. Okay. Part 2 here is you need to take a moment to calm down. So the easiest way to turn off your sympathetic nervous system is to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest system, right? So these are, parts of your autonomic nervous system that are meant to keep you, safe from predators, right? And then help your body to regulate back once you are out of the threat, right? So the parasympathetic nervous system is called rest and digest because it is activated when we are resting and when we are digesting, right? And an easy way to turn this on is to change a sensory element in your environment, right? So we're going to turn off from sympathetic and turn on parasympathetic. So there are a few different strategies that you can use for this. Number 1 is deep breathing, okay? And the deep breathing technique that I recommend that we know turns on this parasympathetic nervous system is when you breathe in a pattern where you are exhaling twice the length of your inhale. So this is how I'd recommend doing this, okay? So we're sitting here together. We can just practice this right now. Just start taking a few deep breaths, right? Just start noticing your breath and taking deeper breaths. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take, okay, a 4-second inhale on our breathing and then do a 4-second exhale, okay? So let's try to do this together. In, out. Now we'll extend it by 1. In, out 5. In 4, Out 6. In 4. Out 7. In 4. Out 8. And when you reach the 8th, I want you to do that a few more times. In 4 and out 8, right? At least 3 or 4 times. And that is going to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, okay? The second thing that you can do is to eat something or chew gum, something that has flavoring, something that will cause you to salivate, because that is going to activate your digestion system. Remember, digestion starts in the mouth. So even if you don't want to go eat something, you could pop in a piece of gum that makes you salivate. That is going to start activating digest as well. Okay. Another thing you can do is to use scents like candles, essential oils, or any room sprays just to change your immediate environment. And the smells that you can use for this that are very triggering, right, are mint, citrus, and fresh scents, right? So like a fresh linen, right? Spearmint, love that. Any lemons, orange, whatever, grapefruit, right? Those sorts of scents are going to help you to shift out. They help to bring you more clarity. They will shift you into a more rest and digest mode, okay? So the next thing you could try is getting comfortable. So if you are wearing some very tight-fitting clothing, you can loosen those restrictive clothing. Or another thing that you could do is rock yourself. So rocking yourself is a very instinctual response that we have to actually self-soothing. So I know this is going to look a little silly, and I'm going to go ahead real quick, and I'll change this to full screen so that you guys can actually see me while I do this a little bit better. But I'm just going to hold myself, right? And you can rock yourself side to side. And I know this sounds silly or maybe a little ridiculous, but this activates your parasympathetic nervous system. This is one of the most instinctual movements that humans have for self-soothing. So holding yourself, rocking yourself, okay? And if you are like at work and you're like, I can't just rock myself in my office, I will look ridiculous, go to the bathroom, okay? Go to the bathroom and do it. Even if you want to do a circle, a little bit of a circle, this sort of motion, this swaying motion, is built into us to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, okay? So try that. Next is to change the lighting, right? So if you've got some harsh lighting right in your office, turn it down. Turn it down if you can. Use table lamps if you can. Use some more more chill lighting scenarios. Or another thing you can do is block out all light from your eyes. This helps you to reset your optic nerve. And so you could do this if you have like a face mask, right? Like if you happen to have a face mask with you. If not, we all have a built-in system for blocking out our optic nerves, okay? As long as you've got 2 hands, you're going to be able to do this, right? So palms of our hands down here. What are these? The heels of our hands? I forget what they call them, but down here, this round part of our hands fits right into our eye sockets, right? So you could push in and you have completely blocked out all light coming in from your eyes, okay? What this does is it blocks all light, it resets your optic nerve, it lets your optic nerve rest, okay? And I'm not gonna keep there too long because I do have eye makeup on. But you could keep this in, block all light, take a few minutes. You can do a few of these things at one time. You could do the breathing as you're blocking out light, right? And that is going to help you to get into rest and digest and to help you to reset into your parasympathetic nervous system and out of the sympathetic nervous system. Okay, and then finally, you can activate your parasympathetic through sound, right? So if you have headphones, right, if you could pull up like an alpha brainwave track, that would be ideal. You can just go to YouTube and search alpha brainwave track and pop in headphones and listen to that for a while, because you bringing yourself into an alpha state is going to help you naturally rest, right? I wouldn't go into like theta necessarily if you're in your workday. That's another restful one. And delta, of course, is sleep. So I wouldn't go into delta or theta because you want to still have energy, right? If you're in the middle of your workday or getting your workday started, an alpha brainwave is going to pull you out of beta, which is your fight or flight responses in beta. So it'll pull you out of that and it'll help you to get into a rest and digest scenario. Okay. So those are some strategies you can use to help you calm down and get yourself out of the fight or flight response, okay? And then the third thing you need to do, the third part of this action plan, is to actually cut down your to-do list, right? So I always recommend that you stick to a prioritized, like daily top 3 task list, right? And utilize other functional planning strategy to help you properly prioritize and organize your tasks. So you only need to be looking at and focus on one day on the things that you can do in one day. There's no reason for you to see your full to-do list, right? Focus on the top 3 things first. Have another prioritized to-do list for the week. We don't want to be looking at your entire to-do list for the month or the year if it's triggering to you, right? So use smaller strategic to-do lists in order to keep you on track so it does not overwhelm you, okay? Now, one more thing I would definitely recommend is for you to download the functional planning dashboard in order to learn my functional planning methodology. This dashboard is going to help you to learn the 3 phases of functional planning and stop letting your planner and to-do list trigger your nervous system, right? With the 3 phases of functional planning, you're going to be able to get everything out of your head and onto paper by capturing everything that you need to do, then strategically organizing it, and then going even further to actually assign what your top 3 is for each day so that you can have focused, managed to-do lists that help you be productive, to stay on task, and to keep your nervous system feeling safe and secure. Okay, ladies, look. As I'm filming this video, as it's being published, it is the first week of the second half of the year. Are you ready to spend the next 6 months working on making your goals and your best life happen? Now that you know, right, that it's not necessarily that you're lazy or that there's something wrong with you, you're not unproductive. No wonder you're struggling with building self-discipline if you're constantly being triggered by your to-do list, right? But now you know what the problem is and you know the solution. So you could massively uplevel your life and achieve your goals with the right strategies, accountability, and coaching over the next 6 months. So the Charmed Life Mastermind has what you need to succeed. The Mastermind is a low-price subscription membership similar to a Patreon, but organized on a private membership site with a mix of live classes, on-demand tools, and a community where you can get inspiration, solutions, and coaching from me each day as you need it. Here's what some members of the Mastermind have said. Alexis, I just joined the Mastermind earlier today. I haven't been a member for a full day yet, and oh my God, I already watched 2 archived classes. I have learned so much. I can't wait to wake up tomorrow and learn even more and do it again the next day and the next day. I feel like I got my money's worth and more in what I already learned in less than a day. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Stephanie. Alexis, yesterday's session was so good. I was particularly excited about the self-mastery versus time management part. So I went to our Charmed Life Mastermind membership to listen to last month's office hours replay. I hadn't had the chance to do it, and it was exactly what I needed to integrate. So this morning, I'm psyching myself up for activities for the day using the strategies and mindset shifts you talked about. It's amazing how after only 3 days, I'm seeing significant changes in my perspective. Also, I just loved Monday's analogy of success being like a wave in physics, so on point. Another one says, I've been truly struggling with identifying priorities and narrowing down my goals. I watched the July mid-year review masterclass and it was game-changing for me. Something finally clicked and I was able to identify my true goals and priorities based on my current life situation, and I'm so proud of this. I think Alexis is a true subject matter expert, and I'm so glad I decided to join the masterclasses. Keep it up, Alexis. You are changing lives for the better. And finally, my pleasure. Joining the Mastermind was the best decision I made in 2023. So, ladies, what are you thinking? Are you going to join the Charmed Life Mastermind, our planning, productivity, and personal development community? You'll learn research-backed productivity strategies, access science-backed tools, and get accountability and coaching on demand to create your best life. Go ahead and enroll now. The link is in the description, and let me know if you have any questions. I cannot wait to work with you inside the Charmed Life Mastermind. If you found this video to be helpful, please make sure to give it a like and feel free to share it with anyone you think would find it helpful. For more of the behind the scenes of my productivity, life, and business, make sure you're following me at MissTrenchcoat on Instagram. And if you're not yet subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button for more awesome videos by me. And until next time, bye-bye.